Children and dogs, a big topic. That's the kind of question that you have to answer individually because there's so many different circumstances. And that's the kind of thing where it really depends on what the case is. So let's say you have a more mature dog. Dog's a year and a half, between the year and a half, 2 years old, and like 7. And children are maybe by the same age. So you have children that are up and about between the ages of 3 and 14. There are some good general rules. And one rule that I've always stood by is you never leave dog alone with anyone that's under 12 years old. Things happen unintentionally and dogs respond. Dogs just react. So if there's a poke or a pull or a surprise, if dog gets stepped on, its paw or its tail or ear gets pulled or a dog gets tripped over, something scares the dog, they're going to snap, they're going to react, So you just never know. And the safest rule is you have to watch. You have to be there. Some good things for play is I would not play chase. Many times I go to visit people and tell me how, the kids love to turn and, run and have the dog chase them. Not a good game. What did the dog learn? The dog learns that it can treat the children like it can treat another dog. Because if the dog is running after you, the dogs chase each other, they're going to run and grab. They're going to run and jump. That's what dogs do with each other. Their favorite game is catch me if you can and keep away. So if they're chasing the children, they're going to grab clothes, they're going to grab the jacket and tear it, they're going to go to grab the arm, they're going to try and catch them, and the only thing they have to catch them with is their mouth. So you have to always ask the question, what did the dog learn? So we never chase the dog, and we definitely don't have the dog chase us. Again, it teaches the dog it's okay to treat humans the same way it would treat another dog. If you have a new rescue and we're concerned because he's leery of the children, he stays away, he growls, he's growled at some of the kids a couple of times, it's very often assumed that the dog is aggressive to children. Dog doesn't like children. So more likely, it's not a nasty dog that doesn't like children. It's a dog that is unsocialized, has never been around children. So it's a frightened dog who doesn't know what children are. So this is where it's really about teaching the children how to handle the dog. And we teach the dog to stay so it can watch, so it can learn, can build trust. And depending on the dog and the dog's age, how much trust the dog will develop really depends on the work you do. It's all about individual relationship. If we have 4 kids, we're going to have 4 different relationships with that dog. And that's the thing to be aware of. So very often, in many cases, not only between children and dogs, but in many cases, people will assume that a new dog has been abused and then mistreated, where the reality is the dog is just had no experience, which brings a very similar result. Dogs are always afraid of what they haven't experienced. The other big thing with dogs and children is food. So I wouldn't let the dog lay under the high chair where the baby's dropping food because it's fun to watch the dog come and eat. Or, the dog sees, you put the baby in the high chair, or it sees the kids around the table and the dog's right there because it knows the kids are going to drop food. Not good. Again, what did the dog learn? The dog learned it's okay to take the kids' food. So, kids are the same size. So you have a dog that's this tall and a child that's this tall. The child has some food. The dog is going to take it. That's just what they do. It's what they do to each other. And that's the big thing with dogs and children is dogs see the height and they just think, children are different looking dogs, right? So it's really teaching both. It's teaching the children do's and don'ts and how to get along with the dog and, how to coexist. And it's teaching the dog the boundaries as well. A big thing is the better listener your dog is. You have the children with you. I, a lot of times, work with with little 5, 6-year-olds, and we go single file, and we have the dog next to us, and we tell the children what to say. Tell the dog to sit. The dog doesn't sit, and you're holding the leash, and the dog says sit. Okay, now tell the dog no. So as the child says no, you're going to help the dog with the leash, and then repeat the word sit. The little one says sit, and the dog sits. So teaching the dog to listen to the children is really what changes a lot in the relationship. Now the dog is learning to respect the children, and it has to follow directions from the children. So an important thing to keep in mind about the dog's listening is that it's submissive. We don't want them, when we teach the dogs, we don't want to teach them to listen submissively. We don't want them to be afraid of listening. But the reality is you give the dog a command and the dog responds. In the dog's mind, it's being submissive. It's giving up its freedom of choice to follow a direction from you. So you change the relationship when the dog feels it's following those commands from the children. When I teach stay, I like to have the children help, distract, and test. And I make sure they understand the difference between testing and teasing. So we're going to run past the dog, we're going to drop things, we're going to open and close the door to teach the dog the tolerance that there's this activity and that there's this energy. Children are loud and energetic. They run, they yell. Sometimes I tell them, do me a favor, I want you to have a race from this wall to that wall. Go run, touch the wall, come back, and I have the dog sitting next to me, and the dog just sits with him. You stay, the kids run, boom, good job. Dog remains seated. Let's do it again. The dog stood up. Oh, wait, start again. Have the dog sit. Now, we do that a few times so the dog learns to just sit, watch the kids run. I will tell them, okay, this time, yell. Just holler. Just yell. Yay, run. The kids go running, yelling, come back. The dog stayed seated. What a good dog. So we teach the tolerance. You have to introduce the activity that we think the dog is either unfamiliar or uncomfortable with, so we can praise and reward the dog, that we can teach the dog for understanding there's no threat. This is just what kids do, right? Kids aren't grown-ups, even though some grown-ups are kids. So there are some important do's and don'ts. Teach, play, hide and go seek is a great game for children, right? Having the dog run and find the kids, aside from children love it, it builds a bond. It teaches the dog to come. It's a great game for developing relationships. Having the dog play hide and seek with its toys. We hide the toys and teach the dog to find. Of course, fetch, always chasing something, bringing it back. And when the dog learns to give and put it in your hand or drop, when they learn those things, you're teaching the dog a lot. The thing with play is you're teaching the dog to use the strongest muscle in its body, which is its jaw muscle. So when the dog is using the jaw muscle on command, give, and gives you back the toy, or drop, and it drops the toy, it's learned a big lesson, and it's great for that relationship. So those are the big do's and don'ts for the dog. Do not chase the dog. Don't have the dog chase you. Not a good game. Play hide and seek. Keep the dog away from food. Food, children, and dogs is not a good mix. If something falls on the floor, forget about it. You lost it. Because as soon as you try to be faster than the dog, this is where trouble starts. Beware of furniture. If your dog is allowed on the furniture, fine. Now, all of a sudden, your smallest one has learned to climb up on the furniture. The dog may not be comfortable with something like that. It's like when children think that, they want to try and climb into the dog's crate or get on the dog's bed. No, not allowed. Not allowed. All right, the dog's bed is its safe place. Its crate is its safe, quiet place. It's not for the children. Teach the dog to sleep in the hallway, not necessarily next to, if it's going to be one person's dog and it's going to sleep in that person's room, well, that's fine. But to avoid confusion, if the dog is going to be most comfortable, if it has one spot where it can see all the bedrooms, it knows where everybody is, and it feels it's doing its job by sleeping in its place of of protection. So no chase. I'd beware of children and dogs sharing furniture, especially little children. Be very aware of food, right? Food, children, and dogs can really be a recipe for trouble. And teach the dogs to tolerate children's play. So children are loud and energetic. I do remember having to do some lessons with a little dog when the family with 3 boys had gotten a trampoline, and suddenly, the dog was crazy because they were all excited. So here's 3 young people running across the yard, right? So now the dog is running with them, really excited. Now they're up on a trampoline and they're bouncing, jumping. So it's a new trampoline in the yard. The dog has not seen this behavior, this kind of energy. I've got a call from someone who was all concerned about the way the dog was behaving and grabbing. First he thought it was biting, but he was just trying to pull the children away because they were laying on the ground making snow angels. The dog doesn't know what a snow angel is. The dog hasn't seen that behavior and doesn't know what it is. So, the dogs are always doing what they think is the right thing, which is, to be the guardians, to be the protectors. So what we think of everyday life, if it's new to the dog is going to act fearfully or is going to be protective, right? It's going to be on the defense. So we have to always be thinking ahead, especially in those young times. If you're in a household where there's a lot of activity and friends come in, they don't knock, my same friends, my kids' friends come every day and they just walk right in. They don't always knock, they just come in because we're going out to play in the yard. So when you have that kind of neighborhood, it's in that kind of environment, the dogs can get scared. They can also, the dog was in the kitchen and so from next door came in to get his friend to go out to play, and the dog growled and jumped on him. So you hear these things because when it comes to dogs and children, you can't take it for granted. We can never assume that the dog is looking at all of the many situations the same way we are. And it's always great. There's nothing like kids and puppies. The important thing is teaching them how to coexist safely. So it's a lot of teaching on both parts. The children have to learn about dogs have to learn about children. I hope that helps. Please leave any questions in the comments. You can always reach me through my website, peaceofmindcanine.com, and look for the book, The Affection Connection, on Amazon in either paperback or ebook. A lot of this information and more, and stories in the book about cases like this and how we went about correcting the problem. It's all there, and I'm here to help you any way I can. Bye for now.